All right, perfect. Welcome everybody and welcome you to the podcast TOEDU. Here we talk about just theological conversations that we have and I have with different studies and professors going about different perspectives in life. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and what you're studying right now.
Yeah, so my name is Jared Rice. I'm 19 years old. I'm a first semester student here at the school that I'm attending. And
what are you studying?
I plan on getting a biblical studies major. I haven't exactly declared yet, but that is where the route I'm taking.
Yeah, I know you finished your associates, right?
Yes. So I already have my associates in business/accounting. I've been taking college classes since I was 16 years old.
16 college classes. That's crazy. Right? Yeah, so you're studying biblical studies, and the reason why I have this podcast is because I feel like theology is present everywhere, and we might probably not know about it, but theology is in every single day of our lives. What is your perspective of theology, Christianity in general? How did you come to find God? Have you been a believer since ever? What's the history behind you and God?
Yeah, so I think theology definitely holds a lot of weight. It's very important. Christianity, obviously, very important. How I came to find God, kind of my testimony is, my parents were actually founders in the church that I attend now. I've been going to church since I was in my mom's womb, I like to say.
Okay.
But yeah, so I've been going to church. Obviously, going to church isn't indicative of a relationship with Christ. But I got saved when I was 13, 14. Talked with my pastor. I told him, hey, like, this is what I want. Like, I don't want to be separated. And really I didn't want to be separated from my family. All my family was Christians. I didn't want to be separated from them if I died in something and I go to hell and then they go to heaven. So yeah, that's how it started. I still went to church every week, Wednesday and Sunday. And if you came up to me, I would say, yeah, I'm a Christian. And like looking back, I think I would say I was a Christian. I just didn't know anything. I knew I loved Jesus, but was that relationship? But I think that relationship was because my parents knew Jesus.
All right, so your parents, if I got this right, were pastors.
They were founders. So my dad was the first deacon of the church.
Okay.
He never wanted to expand past that. Okay. From my knowledge, I could be 100% wrong. And my mom, she just did her thing, children's ministry, stuff like that.
Okay, but he was not a pastor.
No, there was no pastors, just founders,
Gotcha.
Lack of a better word.
So there was a time in your life where you were, and this is coming from a personal experience, but you were involved in church because you were born in church. Mm-hmm. But then I'm guessing it was an aha moment when you realized you needed to accept Jesus Christ. Because the mistake that most people make is that we're involved in church and we think we're believers. And it's hard to differentiate the difference between I believe, I don't believe, or I believe that I believe. Yeah. So when was that moment when you realized maybe I'm just believing that I believe in God?
Mm-hmm. I really wish I did have an aha moment, like I wish I could just go back to a specific moment in my life and be like, this was the moment. So that's why like in conversation, I say that it was when I was 13, 14, that conversation I had with my pastor. But I believe I did get saved in that moment. I just don't think there was really I didn't do anything.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But, as I grew into my teen years, Christ wasn't a priority.
Okay.
Anymore. And, as I started to pay more attention into church, in church, I noticed the wisdom that my pastors had, and I wanted that. So I guess if you had to throw an aha moment on it, it would be the decision to go to a church camp. Right after COVID, if I remember, I was just like, okay, like you're not living a godly life. You're doing a lot of stupid stuff. Like, okay. You've got to make a decision. Like, are you gonna like follow Christ? You're gonna put him back number one. You're gonna continue to keep him like fourth or fifth on your list. So I think if you had to put an aha moment on it, it would be that moment right there.
Okay.
To be like, I'm going to actually follow Christ and like take this seriously.
Did you feel any kind of pressure from church or any kind of expectation that no one communicated to you, but you felt it in your life? Like you need to be that good example of. Did you ever feel that?
Kind of, yeah. I felt a lot of pressure. I've been going to the same church. I've been going to church since I was in my mom's womb, but it's also been the same church. So I've kind of had all these people kind of, I don't think they set expectations onto me or put pressure onto me. I just felt that that I put the pressures on myself. Like I've got to look a certain way. I've got to act a certain way. Just because of the culture that they built. It's a really healthy culture, but if you're not really wanting to be a part of that, you may like act a certain way. And I think that goes with all churches, to a degree, that if you may just make yourself included instead of actually try to include yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So if I'm getting this right, you were in church, you understood that the gospel was real, and you accept Jesus Christ in your heart. Did that lead you, or it was hard for you to believe that there was forgiveness of all of those bad actions for you? For example, same path I have. I grew up in church, then I kind of messed up, and I was like, all right, God, this is real. I'm going to try to fix myself with the help of the Holy Spirit, of course. But throughout time, I feel like you're in church and you're doing your own thing, but you still got to be in church, so you feel kind of hypocrite, right? But then you want to accept the forgiveness, but you're still the same.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so it's hard. Like grace, forgiveness is such a just novel concept. And like, I guess the Western culture, just like humans in general, it's just because like how, out of everything that I've done, like how could me be forgiven, And it's just even to this day, it's just a constant battle of just like, how can I be forgiven? Like it doesn't make sense. But then, you read the Bible, you listen to the people around you, godly people, and you're just like, it's true, but there is that constant fight.
And in church, because I know that center of this conversation is going to be kind of marriage, so I'm just going to kind of jump into the topic. When you say marriage in church, what's your perspective in marriage? What's your experience with marriage? I know you're not married, but what have you seen? What have you experienced with, I don't know, your parents, your family? What is it, what you got about marriage?
Yeah, so I think marriage is a beautiful thing when done properly.
So is sex.
What?
So is sex.
Yeah, yes, definitely. Okay. But I do have a cynical view of it. My parents are divorced.
Okay.
So there is this. It's just how many marriages are done like right. Like are they putting God first? There's a illustration that my pastor uses. If you think of a triangle and you have man on one side and woman on the other side and God up top, the ideal marriage is as you grow closer to Christ, you grow closer to one another.
I see.
And it's just how many marriages are failing at that. And this isn't like to point blame at somebody else and like look at their marriage is struggling. All marriages have their like struggles. But it is interesting to see the divorce rate in the church and outside in the secular world are pretty similar.
So are your parents right now married, or they?
They're divorced.
They're divorced, and then they married again.
Yeah. So my dad has remarried. He's been remarried for a few years, and my mom has been dating a guy for a few years now as well.
Gotcha. So, not to get into their perspective, but within your perspective, what are you thinking about? How is your marriage gonna be? What's your dating style like? What is it what you have learned and has hurt you? Because my parents are divorced, separated, and that changed my theology. So I guess a broken marriage in anyone's life is a complete, it changes everything, and it changes the perspective of love, of God, church, and theology. So how has a broken marriage in your life break you in some sort of sense?
Yeah. It definitely has changed my perspective on a lot of stuff. It's kind of made like this like love is relative type of mindset to where like I could know you my entire life, but like does that knowing doesn't equal love, you know? Like but it has definitely changed my perspective, and it has been like a lot of things I've had to work through. There has been a lot of things I've had to work through, just because there's so much to it. There's so much to a divorce. You know, the two people that you love the most in the world.
Tell me about it. I mean,
are now no longer. Tell you about it. Well, I would say that I would say to a degree I have a bit of a struggle with commitment. You know, okay. I don't want to hurt somebody else in a relationship, and I don't want to
get hurt.
I don't want to get hurt. You know, if you put up those walls, you don't let anybody through those walls. Ideally, you don't get hurt. But I mean,
well, the beauty of love, they say, as a single man, is the risk of getting hurt, right?
Yeah,
that's the beauty of a relationship. But when you see God, where do you see His love? I mean, because seeing my parents in a broken marriage, I've seen not a broken, but a space between God and me. I feel like I can mess up and He can just like bounce. You know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I definitely know what you mean. It's just like how do I know? I mean, this is something I should love. How do I know that like, and this transcends just like a significant other relationships, but with all relationships, like how do I know that I love you? Like because of what I've experienced, you know, like how do I know that is love? Like what is love? And like God is love. Like, but it is this constant. It is just like you said. It's this constant struggle.
Love, but that doesn't work as to understand.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't help in the struggles. I mean, it helps, but it doesn't.
It doesn't, bro. This is what I have this podcast
for,
bro.
Yeah.
When we're broken and when we're sad in a dark spot in our life, the fact that God is love does not help me. Okay, and this boy be like, "Whoa, why are you saying that, bro? Let's be real." What helps you is a bro that is gonna call you and take you to Whataburger in the middle of the night when you're feeling sad, right?
Yeah.
Through that, you see love that comes from God because He might be a medium, right? But I'm asking you, like, how do you see love, or what's your perspective of love? Well, coming from the Father, which is love, agape, that we know, and also how do you try to show that love? What's my perspective on love? This is it. This is what I got about love. Okay. When Adam and Eve were in the garden of Genesis, love was at its purest, most definition of what we have. Love was at 100%. It was Adam was with God, and the Bible says that they were one with another. So love was pure. It was perfect. It was just created per se. But then they sin and then betray God. And then I feel like love drops down to 90%, right? Because now it's in a sinful reality. So as time goes, I feel like love has decreased so much. I mean, I think right now we're at 30%, bro. Yeah. No, for real. And that's why it's so hard to get into a relationship, because with technology, I feel like technology dropped it down 20% more, because you have now competition, you have expectations, you have comparison that you didn't have before. So I feel like for now to find a true love, true marriage, true relationship within God in the middle is very hard. Why? Because I feel like love is getting extinguished. It's extinct by now. It's a feeling that we don't get to experience at its fullest. Now, when I see the Bible and I see, oh, God is love, that's where my struggle is. Okay, if He's love, it should be still alive. That's my perspective on it. What is your perspective on love? Where have you find it? Or are you think you're going to find that love of your life? What is it?
Yeah, I think I'll break this down in a couple different ways. So just off the very last thing you said, obviously you want to find the love of your life. I think the love of your life is real. I think all of us can agree, but like soulmates, like that's pretty...
That's cute.
That's dumb. No. I mean, just for this idea that there's one person in the 8 billion people out there in the world that's for you It's just dumb. There's no other way around it. But I mean, obviously, you search for that love of your life. You search for that one person. But I think that one person takes many folds. You know, I think when we think of our one person, we think of somebody that thinks like us, that is us. But I think oftentimes that's, I mean, opposites attract. I mean, there's a reason why the saying is there.
Or kill each other.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean, and with technology nowadays, and with so many different outlets to try to find love, this term that is used so often, which I would say isn't love. You know, I know relationships that have started through Tinder, but how many relationships have been destroyed through Tinder? How many one night stands have happened through Tinder? And everybody's searching for, and I would say most people on these apps, these technologies, aren't searching for love; they're searching for pleasure.
100%.
Mm-hmm. And they just that's what I would associate with the modern century of what love is, or with today's term of what love is we don't use love in the way that love needs to be used. We use love as pleasure. We use love as somebody that just accepts us, somebody that is distractions. And I do think it's hard to find real love for that reason, to find somebody that everything that love consists of, but you don't see it often.
And with your that perspective of love, because it's a perspective, mm-hmm. It's a conviction that you have. Mm-hmm. We can jump into convictions. What is your conviction of marriage? Do you think marriage should be, as the Bible says, that you should become one flesh, one spirit? Therefore, sex should be just within the concept of marriage? Or tell me about it. Mm-hmm. What's your perspective, theological perspective of marriage/love? Yeah.
I would say it's always good to see what the Bible has to say. I feel like that's just a good.
That's how it is. That's
yeah, yeah. I think that's just a great place to start. I do believe that you do become one flesh when you become married. I do believe that, you know, there are people called to singleness, and those people, if they're there, they should remain single. But for the vast majority of us, you know, marriage is kind of what we want. Marriage is kind of our thing. I mean, I'm included in that. But marriage is not what it, I mean, it's just not what it needs to be. It's not what it is in today's term. Like with the becoming one flesh, like, I think that's true. I think you need to become one flesh, but y'all are still different people, you know, if that makes sense. Like, you still have your own perspective, and she still has her own perspective. Yeah. And I've heard, well, we're one flesh. Like, I've seen that, and I've heard that used against people. How so? By justifying actions, in the sense that, like, well, she did that, so, like, that was me doing it, and if I'd done that, then you'd be okay with it. But with she doing it, you're not okay with it. Okay. Does that make sense? Kind of. I know it's a little confusing. Yeah. Yeah.
But is that what you think? Because my perspective of one flesh is, if I'm keeping myself to marriage, mm-hmm. Yeah, I have my own context, culture, history, past. I probably messed up here and there. Mm-hmm. But if I aim to keep myself to marriage, I feel like sex has to go along with marriage for a successful marriage, right?
Definitely.
So when you take sex in the middle and you put it that you have been committed to one person and you have saved, your seed essentially is what it is for one person, then marriage and sex becomes holy, mm-hmm. and you're set apart from everyone else, right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. I would definitely agree. Sex in marriage is very important. But it shouldn't be, if there's lack of sex in a marriage, it shouldn't be an excuse for the husband's behavior. There's a pastor, Mark Driscoll. He was famous. He did a church, Mars Hill. It was a huge success. But he's gone on air during a sermon and said this pretty much verbatim, that I've had bad seasons in my life. Like, I've gone through rough stuff. And that's because my wife wasn't pleasuring me the way I needed to be pleasured.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't put off your struggles, the stuff that you're struggling with, the stuff that you're doing, the dumb stuff that you're doing, just because your wife isn't meeting your expectations. It's a very like animalistic mindset.
Well, first of all, you shouldn't say in front of an audience.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I mean, there's so much wrong with doing that, but with what he said and how he said it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sometimes we tend to just blame it on each other. Oh, well, she's not satisfying my needs, so I'm just going to find it somewhere else. But yeah, I feel like it is such a sensitive topic to talk about, but I feel like as a man, you should meet the needs of your wife, even if you might not like them. There's communication in the middle. Communication is a key word. You got to communicate what you want and what you don't want and what you need and what you might not need. So as the woman with the men, some guys can do what the woman wants to do. So I feel like when you communicate those things, you are protecting your marriage. But it's hard when your wife doesn't want to do what you want to do, or you don't want to do what she wants to do. However, do you see yourself do you see yourself getting married? I mean, I'm trying just to get deeper in the sense of, do you believe it's worth a shot trying what your parents couldn't fulfill?
I want to do all the things right that my parents did wrong. You know, like I want to find a wife, or to find a woman first, date her, like know her, get married, and have a family. I want to do it. I don't ever want to lose sight of the illustration that I showed earlier about the triangle. Like I think, and this is inside the church. I don't really know how like secular marriages work. I feel like if you use the illustration of the triangle, I feel like what's the top? Like if y'all are growing closer to one another, like for what purpose? Just to become closer? I feel like that could all come crumbling down very easily. But I would say that I just want to do all the things that my parents, that they did wrong. I want to do it correctly. I want to not lose sight of that illustration. I want to
do that to please God, or to please yourself, or maybe your future kids? What's the heart behind it?
The heart behind it, that's a good question. I would say was when your 13-year-old self, I think back to my 13-year-old self, like scared, like not understanding what was going on, just trying to process everything, like going through a messy divorce, like seeing how it just destroyed the family. Like I want to make sure that my kids never go through that, and that's why I don't want to lose sight of God and in the relationship of all. And I also don't want to lose sight in the partner, because I mean, how many times have people been like, God's called me to this, so I'm going to do this, and my wife's coming along too. Like there is no like insight. There needs to be that equal insight. I don't want to lose track of God, and I don't want to lose track of
Jesus
my life.
Itself says your first ministry is your house.
Yeah.
So therefore, God's called me to go to China, but that's my wife agrees, right? You got to put those things in the middle. So as my kids, how do they feel? But you mentioned being a kid, scared and confused, and like I feel like, they get divorced and they say, oh, it's going to be fine. You're just going to be here. You're just going to be there, 2 houses, this and that. It's not like that. At the end, I feel like one parent ends up taking the responsibility, and the other one kind of like, goes away.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And like I think the Western culture, because you see it all the time in TV shows, they just have such a, you get 2 Christmases, 2 birthdays, like 2 of everything. Like it's gonna be awesome, and it's just like it's not awesome. Like I don't have a home. Like, and if I said that to my parents, they would both like, what are you talking about? Like, you obviously have a home with us. And I'm like, yeah, but like, I can't go to a place and just like, this is my home. This is where I reside.
And then you move to a dorm.
Yeah. And then
that is not your home.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel you, bro.
Yeah. So it's just this, you never have a home. I haven't had a home since I was 13.
And where do you see God? I mean, where do you see? Because, I mean, I found refuge in God, definitely. That's why I believe in him, right? Otherwise, I'd be like, gee, no. But But sometimes I just don't. Sometimes I just can't see God in the middle of certain needs. Or so, are you familiar with the inner child? So that perspective of what I suffer as a kid bounces back now that I'm older. I just don't see God sometimes. I'm like, God, where were you in that moment that is affecting me now? Why have you not cleaned up that area in my life? With that being said, is there some areas in your life that you recall as a kid where you didn't see God and you might not still see him till this day?
Yeah.
Or
I would say the entire divorce as a whole, I was just like, well, God, if you love me, like, why is this happening? Like, why is everything just falling apart and I can't control it? I mean, that, and to a degree, I still have that question. Like, I like, what just happened? Like the divorce is just not like this thing that stops affecting you when you turn 18 and you move out. Like, it's still something that you deal with to this day. Like, that inner child, like, you have a lens over your vision is clouded. But it took time to see God in those moments.
okay,
And took very recently. I remember a few months ago, I was talking to, he was my godfather, the guy designated that if anything happened to my parents, he would be they would take my siblings and I in, he would take the kids in. And I remember just having a conversation with him, in church one Wednesday night, and he was just saying that, like, when the divorce happened, when your parents told us, like, we didn't pick sides. We weren't picking your dad or your mom. Like, we did pick a side, but it wasn't with them. We picked y'all. We picked the kids. Like, they said, we'll do anything for your kids. We'll whatever that looks like. And for so long, I was just like, because I've got a small immediate family, but like a big circle of family friends. But it's just like, where were those family friends throughout it all? But looking back, like, these people made sacrifices for me that I just never realized. And I remember just finding a spot in my church where I wasn't going to be disturbed. I just remember bawling, just so overwhelmed with emotion, because, like, it was all just so much to process that, like, because, divorce happens with friends, like, people, there's just sides are going to get picked, but I never thought, like, I was the one to get picked.
Yeah.
I
never seen it that way.
And it was just so much to process that, like, these godly people picked me, and I would say, and therefore, like, God worked through them, and, like, the relationships are great now with those family friends and I. All, maybe, who knows, all because they did pick us. If they would have picked sides, it could have drastically changed things.
Yeah. So when you're studying right now, biblical studies, you said, and you haven't decided what you're going to do, what are you teaching those younger generations who are not being picked? I mean, some people just, because I put myself, I mean, I don't justify my dad just leaving and never coming back, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, why do you do that? But again, I see it possible. I mean, you can just forget about someone and be like, dude, this is too much. I'm just, bye. What's God? Like, for me, God was the father that I didn't have. Therefore, I was like, dude, I got needs that need to be met. So I'm gonna run to you. Here I am in a graduate school being paid for God, or who knows, but someone's paying for it. And that's God providing through my need. So how have you found him as your heavenly Abba Father?
Yeah.
Where is he for you?
He's so much things. But I would say for so many seasons of my life, he was wisdom. He was, I've always had this passion to, like, learn as much as I can. That doesn't really apply to, like, high school and stuff, but like practical, like, wisdom and understanding. And I found myself in a season of reading a lot of, like, self-help books.
Okay.
And they were all just superficial, like, just this of little substance. And the books, the Christian books that I read that had a lot of substance, you could just compare them. how this one was just words on a page, but this one like meant something. And so for so long, like God was wisdom in my life, because I was reading the Bible, you know, I was in his word. I was reading Christian authors, just trying to have a better understanding of everything. And he's also, you know, he's also the rock on, he's my firm foundation, you know, the very popular song.
Yeah.
But he's just so much that it's almost overwhelming, just like break it all down, you know?
Did you happen to give up with God at some certain point? Just out of curiosity, like between that process, just like, God, I don't think you're helping me right now. I'm just gonna step away for a little bit. Did you give up on him?
I would say
He didn't on you. We're here in this table.
Yeah.
That's what I'm not even asking.
Yeah. I would say there's definitely in the like, well, my parents got divorced when I was like 13, I want to say. That 13 to like 15, 16, like those 3 years, there was definitely like, screw this. Like, how am I going to follow a God that doesn't like
keep my parents?
Yeah. Like the only thing I want in this life is for you to like, or for loving parents. And I do have loving parents, but parents that love one another. And like, now I've got to go through all this crap, all this trauma, like my dad remarrying, which was just a whole whirlwind of just emotions. Like relationships in my immediate family have been severely just cut, like just severely altered because of this divorce. So there was just like, what do you do? Like, how am I going to follow a God that can't even provide for this, for me? But like, it all just comes crumbling down, you know? Like,
and was the church supporting you in that? Because dude, church support people when they want to leave. They're like, they give you reasons to just walk faster. So the church, with that being said, the church kind of, not that judge you, but judge your family, because they were the founders of the church.
Yeah.
So, whoa, the founders are getting divorced. I mean, I guess there was some, unfortunately, some like drama or like comments that probably hurt you.
There was a lot to process through in my church of, I mean, I've heard the backhanded comments, oh, where's your dad? And just there's always little twists in what they're saying.
They do it on purpose.
Yeah. And like there were people in my church that were friends with my dad, and my dad stopped attending, but my mom continued.
Okay.
That would, just until like a year ago or two, would just now talk to my mom.
Oh, wow.
So, and we go to like a church with like 100, 150 people. So it's a small church.
It's a small church, yeah.
So,
and she's been there since day one.
So to just totally ignore them. So yeah, like I've seen that, and obviously, you know, they come up to me and everything's like fine and dandy, but then, you know, my mom's crying at home. Like, why do the people that I thought loved me,
and that's what I struggle so much with certain believers. And I hope I never in that position of putting myself in a false, morally better pedestal than your mom that I'm thinking is down here because I'm up here, right? And church sometimes feed that behavior of, you can judge quietly or, you know, like, don't talk to her because now she's a single mom. Now she has needs, and now she's something that, and I'm talking about my mom, not your mom, but you know, and she's now single, and she can be a threat to single men. Or what have you seen in dude, what do you think about it? I'm like, that's where church sometimes just lack of certain character, and just shut it down. Be like, hey, you're being a problem right now.
Yeah, I do think there needs to be more accountability in that regard, especially of people with like names like deacons and elders with titles. They need to never put themselves on a pedestal. Nobody does, but especially them. You know, they hold a lot more weight. I mean, that's so much religious trauma comes from people that have a title to their name as deacon, elder, pastor, and they use their power, they use their authority to influence things. And Yeah, so we've had single mothers come to our church. We've had people come to our church that have just a regular old family, and then, you know, the daughter gets pregnant, she gets knocked up, and then she just disappears. And it's just like,
where's the church?
Yeah, like, where is the church? Like, this is where y'all need to be. This is where the church needs to be. Like, and I know some of it can be just the woman feels like she's going to get judged. But I mean, it goes back to the time old tale of, like, the church is for the sick. The church is for the sick. You know, the church is the hospital.
That's what Matthew says, right? I'm here for the sick, not for those who are healthy.
Yeah. And I mean, Jesus says it. And if we would just take what Jesus says to be true, I mean, he is God. We would just carry that with more influence. And I think a lot of things that we focus on would just kind of, would not be as big as a priority, would not be the big of an issue. But like single mothers, I mean, which I've seen firsthand, like, they don't need to be running from the church. The church needs to be running to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, me in a minister position, it's hard, dude. It's hard to do it. I'm not judging them because that would put me in a pedestal that I don't want to be, but it's hard. I don't know how we're doing time-wise. Just last topic that I just want to jump straight in. Marriage and homosexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, because we just talked about love. We just talked about it's real. It's hard to find. Some people find love, or what they call to be love, in the same gender, and judging them is not a role to do it. I believe it's a role to guide them, show them what the Bible says, and hope for the Holy Spirit to work something out in their lives. But tell me about it. What should be the Christian response, or what's your theological response to that topic?
Yeah. And this may be a blanket statement for it, but I would say that if God can forgive me and all of my sin, then God can definitely forgive.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there is forgiveness for them, definitely. I mean, if there wasn't, the cross wouldn't be enough.
Yeah.
If we say it from that angle. What I believe and what I've seen is that we all sin. I sin and you're sin, however we hide it. Yeah. In church, in my degree, in my what I'm studying, whatever it is, I hide it. They don't. They're open about it. They're like, dude, this is what I do, this is who I am. Now, morally, I feel like that behavior of homosexuality, and if you want to call it sex in the same gender, that leads into paths that destroy kids, destroy societies, destroy a lot of things because it's not natural. But is that all you got to say about, like, or do you want to deep?
Yeah, I can touch on it a little bit. So yeah, I would say that when we pressure or when we put stuff on the kids like that, obviously sexuality should come from the parents. And the parents only. I mean, I'm hearing...
And the church.
Definitely.
And the church don't talk about it.
No. Yeah. I do believe there needs to be a more healthy discussion about it all, but I kind of view it like this, you know, like, if a single straight man walks into a church, and there's, like, you know, everyone kind of has the greeting time, you go up to him, you're not going to say, oh, well, how's your porn addiction? You know, you addicted to porn? Like, how are you struggling with that? Like, as a very first interaction, you're not going to say that. But if we see a gay person in church by themselves and we come up to them, it's just like, oh, like, are you having gay sex? Like that's just what's in our brain. Like this is a gay person. They're sinning. They're not supposed to be here. And if we ever get there, then we are in a lot worse position than they are, because they're trying to find help. And here we are trying to cast them out. Yeah, it's so wrong to just try to outcast anybody. I feel like there's a time and place for outcasting people. Like if a pastor royally messes up, like, that needs to be taken care of. And if it means, like, him being fired, if him being charges on him, like, obviously, like, but for us regular everyday Christian church goers, like, to just outcast somebody because of their sexuality, I would find to be very, very wrong.
So I agree with you. I feel like if a gay person walks into church willing to accept the church, green light. If the gay person is walking into church willing for the church to accept them as they are, that's not a good mindset. You know, because I feel like if we're going to agree to our God, we're going to agree to his commandments of the church, the morality that he teaches, the Bible, what it says. Therefore, me as a person who is not thinking in a godly way, I'm going to see what the church has to offer and what God has to offer, and I'm going to agree to him. He's not going to agree to me. Yeah. And I feel that's where the mistake is. I feel the church should have loving eyes and compassion for them. Not even compassion is not the right word, because compassion is about someone being inferior than you, and they're not. They're really not. But I just feel like there should be an open and a public space for them to find refuge if they want to. And again, I don't want to say be helped, because they don't have to be helped, but just find forgiveness and hope as much, because they need as much as we do. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like church sometimes can be a little aggressive towards them, and not so much church, also the people. And again, they just think they're better because they know more about the Bible, or they're just like with a woman in every night. So I don't know, brother.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I would say there's a lot of pride around it. There's just so much regarding it, but I would say it's foolish for any Christian to believe that there's not a gay person in heaven.
That's a bold statement, and I think I can agree to it. It is. Yeah, because I just met one of my friends. He's like, dude, I struggle with homosexuality. But I know it's not right, and I try to worship the Lord, but I don't know the psychological science behind it. It's just, if you're not experiencing, because I'm not, I can really talk about it, because I am not struggling with it. I don't see it right now as someone attractive, bro. But if I did, what if I did?
Yeah, and that's as simple as it is. Like, what if I struggled with this? Like, would I, and love your neighbor as yourself, you know? Like if I struggle with this, obviously I wouldn't want people to like push me off to the side and not like, oh, your sin is worse than ours. Like, I'm struggling with porn, but you're struggling with homosexuality. Like, I'm redeemable. You're not. Like, that's so twisted. That's so backwards.
It's so bad, but man, it's just like, what if my question is like, as much as a sinner that I am, or as godly as I am, what if right now I just see you as someone attractive? I can do nothing about it. And I don't know where exactly God can be in the middle. I know he is not in the middle. He's all over it. We just got to like fix our mindset, if it can be called a mindset. But I really don't know what it is. And I'm not struggling with it, thank God. Yeah. But if I did, I wouldn't be feeling comfortable at church, but also not comfortable out of church. So my invitation for them is just like, come to church. Come to God, not the church. Come to God. Open the Bible and see what he has to say about it.
Yeah. And it's a crazy topic. It really is, because I don't think there is this like cookie cutter answer. And that goes right back to what you said. Like go to God and just try to figure out what that is. Like,
what caused it? Because most of the time, that inner child that I'm talking about caused that behavior. Yeah. So there's forgiveness, and God can forgive that part in you that has been struggling and that has caused that kind of behavior.
Yeah, and there's so many things that go into it, you know. Like, so there's a statistic, I don't have the number on me, but like people that have been molested, raped by the same sex are at a far likelihood to become homosexual because of the trauma that they've experienced, and they don't know what it looks like.
Or they don't even know they were molested. Because it happened at such an early age. So I guess the cookie cutter will be digging yourself with God and ask God to reveal and open your heart and show the image that hurt you.
Yeah. And then my next question, or I would have a question to say, like, if you do all that and you find peace on where you're at, like, are you still in sin? If you don't act on it, because there's also like a whole there's been research to say that it's just chromosomes, like it's just how you were born that makes you gay. So if you don't act on that, then we would say you're okay, or we would say, okay, you're gay, so you don't.
But we don't see it, so you're good.
Yeah. But if you do act on it, that's where the sin draws. But you, Gustavo, could you, if being straight was wrong, could you not have sex with a girl? Like, could you not get married? So
I'll be frustrated.
yeah, it would be very hard.
Yeah,
It would be a big struggle.
it'll be a huge struggle. That's right. And I don't want to say that God is the answer, because again, that statement itself does not help.
Yeah.
But God is the answer when it comes to like, all right, God, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I need. I don't know why I need it. Come do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he sure will. Because at the end of the day, we should talk about sin, homosexuality, church, whatever it is within a fallen creation context with eyes of sadness and love, right? Because the fact that they're struggling with it, we're not attacking them, we're not better than them, we're looking at them and we're like, dude, I am so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. And I feel like that's the calling that we should make as a church.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. Because we live in a sinful, fallen world, there's going to be sin. There's going to be sin. Sin affects everything, you know? And I say this, like, I was born with a cleft lip. Like, you can see the scar on me right here.
Oh.
Like, because of sin, I was born with a cleft lip. Because of sin, there's people with Down syndrome that are born with Down syndrome. Because of their sin, somebody on I-30 is going to get in a wreck.
But now imagine me judging you with a cleft
lip.
Mm-hmm. Saying, you're not perfect, bro. Don't get close to me.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I was born like this.
Yeah. Like, it's just something I can't control. I can't change.
Yeah, no, I feel. Yeah, I agree with you. Well, I feel like this is a good spot to end up the conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure indeed.
All right.
All right.